co-founder and CEO of Redbud Labs. Richard? And each of our panelists, each of our panelists are going to tell you what they do and how they do it. And I'd like to introduce Cornell Slade, who is the founder of Slade Company. Next, Sheila Brewington, president of Rescue Construction Solutions. All right, and next I want to introduce Damian Moore, who's the founder of Dame's Chicken and Waffles. How many of you have eaten Dame's Chicken and Waffles? Yeah. All right, and last but not least, this is such a diverse panel. It's very exciting for me. I feel like it's a gift. Ryan Bethea, who's the owner and operator of Oysters Carolina. Perfect. Okay, so we're going to kick off here. I have had the privilege of starting 2 companies and a nonprofit. So I am asking this question because I remember what it was like to be in that catalyst moment where you decide, am I going to do this or am I not? Okay? And so what I want to know from our esteemed guests today is, what was that spark? Okay, so what was that spark that took you from, I think this is a good idea, to, you know what, I'm gonna do this. For me, it was something that kept me up at night. I couldn't sleep because I just kept thinking about it, and I was like, this is a pretty good idea. Maybe I should go with it. So I just want to know what that was, and if it was a mental game. I'm asking a 2-part question. If it was a mental game, meaning I know this will make me money, but I'm not that passionate about it, or it was all passion. I just want to do this because if I don't, I'll never forgive myself. So, Ryan, you want to start?
Yeah, so there's, all I can think of is stand-up comics will talk about how they went into comedy because they had no other choice. Like, they couldn't do anything other than get on stage and tell jokes in front of people. And I kind of feel that way about where I ended up. So I did my PhD at Carolina, and we ended up starting a little biotech company that's still here in the park. So as I was finishing up my degree, my advisor at the time, my co-founder, said, I'm thinking about starting a company. And something in my brain just broke, and I said, that sounds great, I'd like to be in the room. So there was this technology that had been kind of incubating in this research lab, and it was just too interesting. And then I started, I was graduating, I started going on job interviews and looking around at other stuff, and everything else just seemed boring compared to starting. So of course we did exactly what you're not supposed to do, which is we round up, we took these patents and all these inventions, and we said, there's something in here, there's a business in here somewhere, which is a terrible way to start. And then we had to go figure out what that was. And so there was a long fuse of technology development. And then we started to realize that there were actually some really interesting industry problems that we could solve as the technology got a little bit more mature. So that's not, I don't recommend doing that, but it was, that's the honest answer.
Yeah, go ahead and add that. They're all like, what was it? Right. Yes, please, give us the answer.
Show of hands. Who in the room knows what cilia are? Your hands? So cilia, they're like little hairs that grow on top of cells. They're in your lung, they clear out mucus. They're the things that drive bacteria so they can swim. They're everywhere in biology. So the lab that I did my degree in figured out how to make artificial cilia. And so it's this interesting material that we could manufacture. And so we figured out how to manufacture that in a scalable way, and we sell it now as components that go into diagnostic systems. So it's a kind of a fluid processing technology. We can make various kinds of diagnostics faster and more compact and work better at point of care. That's what we do.
Okay, I guess it's my turn. I'm going to do it slightly differently. What do I do? How many people ate breakfast this morning? How many people ate eggs this morning? Well, if you ate at places to go to the arches, you might have had some of mine. I'm the owner of the Best Egg Company. We're a small business out of Iowa. We produce about 50 million pounds of liquid egg a year. It's a lot of eggs. Now, to address the question, mine is going to be maybe a little different. I had a very successful career going at a major corporation. I was president of a business. We just won the Chairman's Innovation Award. And another business president, Cargill, said, we got this thing that we think would be a good fit for somebody, but we can't find the right person. I said, okay, let me see the deck and I'll see if I can find somebody. So I took it home that weekend, I studied it, looked at it, and this looks interesting. I had 2 kids in college at the time, and I was talking to my wife, I said, hey, what do you think about this? She said, well, how would you feel when your friends bought it? I replied, I'd be pissed. So she said, you better go ahead and buy it then. So that's how we made the decision. Now, fortunately, I think I had the background and the wherewithal to make it happen, and that's how we made it all happen. So that's an unusual route to get to ownership, but it worked for me.
Thank you. So opportunity presented itself, period.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
When it did, you had to be prepared to jump on it.
Hi there, I'm Sheila Brewington. I own a company called Rescue Construction Solutions. We are a full-service construction firm. We're based out of Raleigh, North Carolina. We have an office in Greensboro, Florida. Have roughly 22 employees, steady employees full-time, and then we have about 50 partners with subcontractors that we use throughout the United States. To answer your question, for me it was very similar. I was a VP of Sales and Marketing for a big REIT out of Denver, Colorado, where I worked for 10 years, had all types of job securities and 401ks, and one day I decided, yeah, I'm done with this. I'm done with doing it someone else's way. I want to do it my way. I want to instill an environment in which I want to work in. And I had a partner, I didn't know what I was doing. We just left, right? I'm done. I've got to figure this out. I covered real estate for 2 months and I was bored out of my mind. I bought many properties. I've owned various businesses, but in this piece I thought real estate was going to be my passion. I loved houses, etc. And it was like, no, this isn't it. So I had a friend who was in the roofing business and it was really sales and marketing. And I said, man, I don't want to do that. I ain't got a roof. I don't know anything about it. I don't want to do that. And he said, Sheila, it's not roofing, it's sales and marketing. It's not construction, it's sales and marketing. So long and short, we got into this business, and we specialized in roofing, and quite frankly, it was sales and marketing. And as I got into it, it then became about the money. Being honest with you, it became about the money. I saw this opportunity where we could make an immense amount of money. All we had to do was ensure we stayed ahead of the market. So we started to diversify our business from there, and then it became my passion, right? How big can we take it? Because as you see today, we're one of the only women that's running. I'm one of, trust me, I am oftentimes the only one there. And so then it became about the kill for me. So it's a little bit of both, right? Passion, money, and kill. So that's what Rescue Construction Solutions continue to drive. And we're employing from a $600,000 business to a multi-million-dollar business in the last 8 years. So wow, it's a growing business.
Thank you. Damon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Eagles. Good afternoon. Right. I'm Damien Moore. I am the founder and operator of Dane's Chicken and Waffles, which was started here in Durham in 2010. So if you're a freshman, you may not have had the opportunity to dine with us yet, but if you've been around the yard for a little bit, you probably made your way down there, and I thank you for that. My background started really in business and economics. I have a bachelor's degree from the University of North Carolina in Greensboro in business and economics and sales and market management. So I moved to Durham out of undergrad. I was actually working for a telecommunications company here in Richard Triangle Park. It was the dream job for me. I traveled the world extensively. I had my own money. I had my own projects and programs and products that I was responsible for managing. And I was kind of on the fast track for success within that company. But about 5 years in, the first internet bubble burst. And I, along with about 40,000 other folks who worked for Nortel Networks at the time, were disbanded, were laid off. So I was given the opportunity to exit the company, as they say. But essentially, we were all redeployed or terminated. So in that time frame, I was really faced with a decision. I want to get back in corporate life and continue to work in technology and sales, or did I want to pursue a passion that had been yearning inside me for quite some time? And I decided to run for the hills with my passion. And I did that by starting a small catering business. And I worked a very small catering business out of my home for several years, and then ultimately partnered with some other folks to operate a commercial kitchen, and then branched out on my own into the location that we occupied with Dames for about 7 years downtown. In about 2009, the regentrification of downtown Durham was fully underway. The Renaissance had begun, and I was faced with a decision of whether or not to stay and maintain my presence in downtown, or to leave and go to a real estate location that was a lot less expensive than what I was moving into. I decided to reinvent myself, as it were, and in terms of how I got into the concept, I'd always been selling chicken and waffles on my catering menu. It was very popular, but the reckoning moment for me was the day my mother actually tasted my food and gave me 2 thumbs up. That may not seem like much. Parents can be encouraged. I got to know my mother. She's a bit of a stone from time, so to get her praise and her sign off on the mental Olympics in the world. She never said she would finance it, but she did like to treat it. So again, I was faced with that decision about how to move forward, and ultimately we did it internally with our own financial well-being. So I'm very grateful and thankful for that opportunity, and that's kind of how I evolved. I did crunch the numbers very early on to make sure that we were well within our margin space, as it were, and we were. And we've been very fortunate and very blessed to gain some of the success we've had in the past decade.
You give him applause.
Hey everybody, I'm Ryan Bethea from Oysters, Carolina. I'm a proud Eagle alum, class 2014 from the Earth Environmental. Earth Environmental and Geographical Sciences is a great department if anybody's interested and don't have a major, definitely check that out. I'm also a proud Durham native as well. What we do at Oysters, Carolina is we grow one species of oyster. There's only one that you grow on the East Coast. It's Castrostrata virginica, commonly known as the Eastern oyster. And we grow them in cages. So we get oysters that are about 4 to 8 millimeters, so about the size of your thumbnail. And we put them in cages and protect them. They filter water, and that's how they eat. And then as they grow, we kind of keep our stocking density at about 1/3 of a cage, and they grow, and then we harvest them, and then we deliver them anywhere in North Carolina for free. One of our niches is we're a very salty farm. We have 5 1/4 acre on the north side of Harkers Island, and one of the other niches that we have is we actually pull oysters out of the water the same day. We take a picture with a timestamp, and then we deliver them to your door. So we're the most convenient oyster as well as the freshest. With starting the business for me, I was bartending in different places all around the country, Durham as well, and then read an article about oyster farming in North Carolina, and it just made a lot of sense for me. I've got a lot of pride in our state. I think like most people that are from North Carolina also have the same pride. And I know there's a lot of young folks in here, so there's a lot of understanding of climate change and how we need to kind of protect our planet. And so oyster farming was perfect. Has the smallest carbon footprint of any agricultural product on the planet, and it's sustainable as well. So it just kind of was a aha moment. I went back to school at Central, like we talked about, and then did some postgraduate stuff in oyster genetics at William & Mary. And for me, it was a combination of this is going to be a niche product that I'm passionate about, and then also the fact that it's because it's niche, it's also going to be hopefully lucrative as well. I think there's, you stay up and you get up for different reasons kind of throughout the course of your business. Whether, some mornings I get up because I know I'm going to make a lot of money that day. Other mornings I get up because I'm passionate about what I do. So it kind of fluctuates, I think, in that aspect as well.
Thank you.
Okay, my name is Tatiana, but everybody calls me Love. I'm a Master of Social Work student, and I wanted to ask, what is the best way to establish business credit? I just recently opened a business account, and next year I want to open a store. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the best way to do that.
Can you hear me? For me, I started with my local bank, and really started to develop a relationship there, putting all my funds in that one bank, and starting to build a relationship with personal bankers and business bankers, and then tell them what you're looking to do. And they will typically give you either a credit card, if you have decent credit, and or a small line of credit to get you started and get it on your hand. There's a couple of banks that come to mind where we want to have to maybe share that at some point. That would definitely help businesses getting started.
For the first store that we had, it was a matter of cost. When I first moved into downtown Durham, it was 2004, and the rent was really cheap because it was really not an entertainment center like it is now. So it starts with analysis. You really have to study the geography, the demographics of that marketplace. So, for example, when we opened our Cary location, we did quite a bit of survey and understanding what was the median and mean income of folks who lived in that 5-mile radius of our store or the potential location we're looking at. What were their education levels, how often they get out, how large were their family households, that type of thing. So there was an understanding of what we could generate in terms of foot traffic in that market. And that's how we were able to determine which location that we were ready would be the one that we ultimately selected. A lot of it comes down to economics. You have to make it fit in your plan. So if your rent or the cost associated expense for ongoing expenses associated with that location don't fit into your equation, it's not a good fit. As much as you may love to be on the corner of Main Street or the front of Front Street, it just has to depend on economics in a lot of ways.
Juliet. So definitely keeping that business financing, being, doing what you're doing relative to treat your credit and being marketed.
That's okay. With what we did, you said Love? Yeah, with what we did is I actually started teaching and then funded my business myself. And I think a lot of people in here, especially young folks, first generation college people that can't rely on their parents or, to co-sign or to get like large sums of money or anything like that, I think funding yourself is huge. And you don't have to pay anybody back. Okay, that money is not borrowed. That money is money that you earn, and then it kind of doesn't dig you deep. It kind of keeps you at zero, which is nice once the business starts making money. Just want to share that.
Thank you. That term, you'll hear people use the term bootstrap. That means you're doing it on your own, and to your point, you're keeping the equity close.
What do companies look for in a graphic designer?
So we're not hiring any graphic designers right now, but I can tell you what we look for anytime we hire anyone. I don't know how portable any of this is to other businesses, by the way, but it's universal for any role that we fill, whether it's a commercial role or a technical role or anything else. In our business, the number one thing that I personally screen on when I'm talking to folks is intellectual honesty. That happens to be critical for what we do. There's deep science in what we do, and if people aren't more focused on understanding whether the answer is right, then who was right, then weird stuff happens.
What advice would you give to someone that wants to get into the restaurant industry?
Don't do it. unless you're prepared for the commitment. When you say get involved, are you saying start a concept of your own or just work in the field?
Start a concept of my own.
Yeah. pardon the pun, but take small bites, take small steps. I'm not a classically trained chef. I developed my passion for cooking from about the time I was 13 and 14 years old. I was a latchkey kid, if anybody knows what that is. Parents who work and you get home and you fend for yourself until they get home and put meals on the table, so that was me. When I got to college, I did what a lot of students do, worked their way through college by working in restaurants, serving, bartending, cooking, and I fell in love with the industry. It was not my intention to ever put on a chef coat professionally. I thought I was going to be a shirt and tie person. I graduated, I did well in school, did well enough in school to get a really good offer out of school, and I thought that was the trajectory that I was going to be on for the next 30 years. God had a different plan for me, and so when those plans changed, I went with the flow. In terms of what you should do, work for someone who's in the field, get on-job training, as it were. One of the biggest things, or some of the biggest things I learned working for someone else is what not to do. In other words, when I saw what they did with their resources and what did not work, or what I didn't think would work, I made a mental note to not do those things. There are enough challenges already existing in the food industry that you don't need to create or duplicate the ones that have already been made. So work with someone else if you can to get that experience, get a diverse background experience, which kind of alludes to your first question, and definitely put your chips away when you make them. This industry is hard. If you don't know the percentages of failure rates, look it up. They're very dismal, they're grim for restaurants. Not to say that there aren't good restaurants, not to say it's not a good industry. It's a $100 billion industry. It's huge. Where you fit into that is kind of where you have to find your way. But working for someone, getting that experience, take culinary classes at a small level. If you don't want to go back to school full-time for culinary school, you can learn the management side of the business as well as the artistic side of the business.
Those four areas of business. Would you advise just sticking to one area, or would you, support trying to get your foot into different areas of business?
In my current role, I started to look at where's the hole? Where's the gap? What can I do that makes me stick out, stand out? And where's the rare person? And that became roofing to me. And that's why I went after it, because there's not a lot of folks in that space. And if you can specialize in this space and do a very good job, then you can go far. So it's just a matter of two things. First, you've got to figure out what it is you want to do, and then understand where the hole is, where can you put it.
How do you overcome self-doubt?
Yeah.
It's a great question. And Cornell and I were talking about character before we came out here, and why that's so important in building a business. So it's a little bit of a
Thanks for putting me right on the spot. First, I'm not sure I completely have ever overcome self-doubt. I always challenge myself, am I doing this right? Am I doing this best? Would my mom and dad be proud of me? So I'm not sure I ever overcome that. The way I address this is I try to put the best I have forward. I believe that your character, your reputation, all those intrinsic things you bring to the table are what define you. One of the other things I'll tell everybody in this audience, please, remain marketable. What does that mean? Don't put a mark in your schedule or your record that removes you from contention. Right now, when the people apply for jobs, the first job of a recruiter is to eliminate 95% of it. That's the first job. Don't let yourself on that 95%. But outside of that, just you'll never remove self-doubt. But you overcome it, you'll work with it, and feed on it. That's going to motivate you to do even more.
Different perspective, but I think it may help answer your question. It's not so much for me about self-doubt, but I have an almost paranoid, frenzied thirst for competition. In other words, when I see other folks in my space that I've claimed as my space, or in the space that I want to compete in, it really becomes very competitive, and it really becomes somewhat obsessive for me in a healthy way, in the sense that I want to be better, I want to improve what I'm doing, I want to one-up them, or two of them in terms of what they're doing. So if you have confidence in your skill set, then apply it accordingly. Find the paths, do your own SWOT analysis, as it were, your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities and threats. Do that internally in terms of not what your business can do, but what you as a business person, male or female, can do to react to those sensories and then go after them.
Self-doubt. That's something I'm trying to foster. So the fascinating thing about that, it's a problem, right? That if you don't ask the right questions. So my reaction to it is use it. Right? It's the existence of whatever emotion it is on its own is not a strength or a weakness. The question is how you deploy it, right? If you're not certain, do you write it down and show it to someone else and say, is this any good, right? And once you get feedback, do you use your worry about how that person that looked at what you handed them is going to feel about the next time they see you to motivate you to actually fix the problem they identified, right? All of that. So how do you take whatever the weakness is, and we all have weaknesses, and deploy them so that they can help you move forward?
Just to kind of build on what Mr. Slade said, you know, since my business is a little bit younger, we've only been in business about 5 years, I feel like a fraud a lot of times. And you know, there's all kinds of like disorders that go along with that. But the working hard is the best way for me to battle that. If I feel like I'm not worthy or like I'm a fraud, you can almost work yourself out of that. There's really no feeling other than working hard for something. You know, you can't buy that, you can't fake it, and I think it makes you feel like you're actually not a fraud when you actually put the work in.
Preparing to launch my business in the next few months and realizing, you know, when I network with people, sometimes I may spill too much, especially like if your idea is not patentable. How can you best go about networking to, you know, meet people who can help you with your business but not speaking too much on your business where they can take your idea? Because recently I've been in a couple situations where I've just, you know, I'm just trying to network with people, and then, you know, next thing I know, they're telling me, oh, I have a similar idea type thing. So how can you go about like properly networking and connecting with people but not, you know?
I ran a seminar 2 years ago in Miami, and there was a panel of like incredibly successful entrepreneurs on stage. And a young woman came up to the mic and she said, I have this great idea and I can't tell you anything about it. And she wanted help, but she refused to talk about the product. And they sat there and could not help her because she wouldn't give anything away because of this fear. So I'm anxious to hear what the panel has to say about that. Anybody?
You have to be shrewd, obviously. But ultimately, you're out here networking because you want to prosper and you want to, you're looking for help or assistance in some kind of way. You have to be clever, really. I mean, you know more about what you want to do than anybody else. So how much you spill, as you say, is really up to you. So there's tons of resources, there's tons of forums, a lot of industry organizations that you can join and become a member of. The Chamber of Commerce, where you may ultimately reside and open your business, is a great resource. Those things, equip yourself. Start to develop your tool chest and your war chest for things that you'll need to be successful in your business. And just be very selective about how you open those things up. I don't want to rub you the wrong way, but this is something I had to address for myself, is that whatever your product or your service is, I'm pretty sure you're not the first person to do it, okay? You may be the first person to do it the way you want to. That's unique, that's eclectic, that's awesome. That's how I feel about a lot of our products. But don't be fooled. There's someone else who's probably already doing it. Learn from their lessons and their mistakes. And I think you'll start to find out where your niche is, and then you can start to be a little more revealing about the areas that you want to expose for your business.
At your young age, do you have enough experience to make some impressionable person buying what you're selling? That's what you really got to ask yourself. I'm a real believer that you learn first and you earn second. So, I mean, maybe you are a Bill Gates or somebody, and you can do something that is so outstanding at a young age that the world will make a way to your door. I don't know. I'm a real believer that the world is a great teacher if you let it.
When you're in the early stage, the idea stage of a new business, that you want to tell everybody your idea. And the reason is, if the only thing standing in the way of a really interesting business is having the idea, then someone at one of the incumbents in the space would have already had that idea. And they're, you know, a big company, advertising and marketing. Someone at Google would have already had that idea and running up a flagpole, and if it was a really good idea, they'd be doing it now. So the reason they're not doing it is because it's hard, or it's somehow counter to the current structure of their business. They're not doing it because they can't structure it. And if that's the case, in order for it to turn out to be a good idea, you have to go do it, and that's the hard part. And so the reason everyone gives that advice, and repeating it now, is because if you take that advice, you go out, you tell everybody your idea, they'll give you feedback. You can believe it or not, or you can accept, right? There's always, in the early stages, there's always this game of whose advice am I going to take?
Because I've been through corporate ranks, then I started on dating, and you have to define success for you. And I got to a place about 3 years ago and I said, okay, because I'll be honest with you, I'm a very, very competitive person. I'm driven. I started working at 9, okay, to get what I want. I'm a very driven person. So about 3 years ago, I said, okay, it's really, let me be very clear, I'm not rich by any stretch, okay? So it's your definition of success. I defined success for me, what that looked like. It may look different for all of you, but what it looked like for me. And then it became about my passion and as I said before, it's the kill for me. I enjoy going out every day and doing what I do, especially when I think folks don't think I can. So for me, it became about the kill, and it allows me to stay focused on that, because every day I focus on just meeting the need. And there's goals that I set for myself. Sometimes there's monetary goals, sometimes it's to be able to give back. It's whatever that is for you. Find out what that is. I used to think everybody wants to make a bunch of money, so it has to be money. And then I learned, not so much, not so much. Some folks want something different out of life. So you find that passion, you find that goal, you define that goal. And I do this every year for myself, sometimes every 6 months for myself. And then you just get up and you drive toward